Good afternoon, this is Jeff with Sewer Tech Northwest. Today we're at property address 4070 Southeast Brogden Street here in Hillsboro. We're located at the rear of the home. I'm going to describe everything as if you're standing in the street looking at the front of the house. Just off the back left corner of the home here, we have a 4-inch cast iron cleanout. There is yet again another cleanout by the fence line right over there. It's a 4-inch ABS plastic, so we're going to scope both those. We're going to check the overall condition and serviceability of the line. We do have water. I've got the water running from both the kitchen sink and from the bathroom sink on the bottom floor. And we're going to zero out right here. Now I can hear water going through this old cast iron cleanout. But I didn't see any flowing through it. And the kitchen sink is just inside the wall from here, so I'm not sure what purpose this clean out still serves here, but we'll try and figure it out. Alright, so that right there is likely the kitchen sink tying in. And then here's the ABS plastic that we're connecting into now. And there does appear here to be a Y connection. Sorry, I'll try and get a better view. There's quite a bit of junk in this part of the line. Yeah, there's a Y connection that comes in right before, you can see it off to the right-hand side of the screen there, kind of top right-hand corner. You have a Y that comes in. So you've got kind of two separate branches of pipe out here that converge. Now we're into 4-inch ABS. In fact, I think what we're going to do here, this is kind of a tough clean out to shove through. We're going to shut the water off to the kitchen sink and let that part of the line drain off completely, this cast iron part, and then we'll move to the other clean out. It's a much easier point of access to push the camera through. Less turns. Yeah, you can see we have water coming out of both branches here. So as far as I can tell so far, the branch that we access the line through here is likely mostly just servicing the kitchen sink. It looks like the rest of the home routes through that other branch we're right in front of right now. All right, just turn the sink off here, and I just realized going back into the house that right inside the wall from this clean out it looks like kind of the master bedroom and bathroom. So this does more than service the kitchen sink. The branch of pipe is for the bathroom that's in there, and then the kitchen sink ties in a little bit after that. You've got a fair amount of buildup here and scale buildup in the cast iron. I would like to see this cleaned out. And if you go through that effort, make sure a rescope is done to check the work. I'm just getting a fair amount of buildup and sludge and junk and scale in this part of the line. It's still functioning, but it's far more prone to clog than if it were cleared out. You've got anywhere from 1/4 to 1/2 inch of buildup in the flow line. But it's important to do a rescope afterwards. One, to check the work, make sure it's been cleaned. Sometimes when you go and clean out all the junk in cast iron pipe, you start uncovering things like holes that are forming. That's not to say that that's what's going on, but it's important to rescope. Check the work and to make sure you don't have any damaged or rotted spots there in the flow line. But I would definitely clean that out of there. As far as I can tell, the cast iron appears to be in reasonable condition. I can't really see the flow line though. There's just too much buildup in it. So make sure you get that cleaned and rescope to check it. Make sure there's no issues with it. But as far as I can tell, it appears to have decent slope and grade, but that's with the buildup in there. But it is functioning as it sits right now. As far as flow goes, again, once you clean it out, you may uncover some things, you may not at all. Now we're going to go ahead and move over to the clean out access, or the other one, the 4-inch ABS plastic one. All right, we're over at the other clean out. We still have the water running from the right side of the house. We've turned the water off on the left side, or over by the kitchen and master bathroom. All right, we got our water flowing there. See, we've got a fair amount of buildup here in this part of the line too. Right now, I can tell my camera, you can see it when I pull back a little bit, it's riding over a lot of buildup. I mean, it's probably a half to an inch thick in this part of the line. So the whole entire main line needs to be cleaned out, and make sure you do a rescope. What can happen from time to time is you'll get bellies in the line, and the debris will sit in the bellies and actually settle to the bottom of the pipe and take the place of where the standing water used to be. And so you'll kind of get the effect of there being no belly and just buildup, when in reality there is one. It's just been taken up by debris instead of standing water. So I would get this thing cleaned out here. And just went through another bellied area there. I'm gonna go turn some more water on. I don't have great water flow out here. All right, just turned on a sink in the upstairs bathroom. And now we've got decent water flow coming through the clean out. Just transition there to PVC pipe. The main lateral connection at about 153 feet. We're going to go locate that while the line drains off, and we'll get a better view of everything as we come back. I located the camera head successfully. The line terminates at the street out front, out on Northeast Brogden. We're going to wait for the line to fully drain off here, and then we'll check everything out as we come back. At the very least, I'm going to recommend the line be completely jetted, both branches, and rescoped. I'd like to see the line cleaned out. There's multiple areas, especially towards the beginning of the line, where you've got buildup, significant buildup in both the cast iron and the ABS plastic. My concern is in those areas you may have standing water. So I'd like to see it cleaned and rescoped after that to get a proper view of those portions of the line. But we'll see how it looks as we come back here. Sometimes the camera will scrape some junk loose and you get a better view. Alright, line's fully drained enough at this point. We're going to start pulling back. Still a little bit of water trickling off. It's a very long line. Takes a while for this thing to drain completely. And the flow line of the PVC out here, this is how your line should look. There's a little tiny bit of grease buildup out there, but Nothing crazy. You can actually see the flow line. The PVC pipe there is looking good. It drains very nicely. No issues with that at all. And this stringy thing hanging from the top of the pipe up here, that just appears to be a cobweb, not a root intrusion. We're getting into some standing water here. This is extremely minor thus far. It's only about it's under a 1/4 inch, somewhere between a 1/16 and a 1/4 inch. I don't generally consider repairs on plastic pipe with bellies in them until you're at least an inch of water. That's static with no water running at all for 5 to 10 feet minimum, and I've got to see buildup on top of that shows me it's causing flow problems. The belly we just went through there, I mean, you'd have to flush a pair of shoes down the toilet to clog that spot. There's no reason to do any repairs on that, especially considering the distance it is from the home. The closer they are to the house, the more likely they are to actually cause a blockage and a backup. If you're blocking up 90 feet out from the house, it's almost, I mean, basically 100% because of what you put down the line. You develop a very large amount of head pressure blocking at those distances. The water weight building up behind it will often push everything through. We're starting to get into a little bit deeper standing water here. Everything from this point forward, from about 70 feet or so forward, the standing water is far too minor to require repairs. You would have to just about try and clog the line, put grease, paper towel, stuff like that down it. Now right here we are at an inch of water that just went over the top of the camera head. And we're deeper than that now. We're probably in the... When I pull the camera back quickly, the water line's not pulling below the camera lens, still just about coming out of the belly. So in that area there, you've got closer to 2 to 3 inches of standing water at least. And there's a humongous piece of debris that just broke loose there a second ago. And the hard part is when you're pushing this much debris around, is that stuff will dam the pipe up and create the effect of standing water when there's actually not any. So that's why I say we're getting a reasonable look at this line today. I would highly recommend cleaning this line and rescoping it. That's going to give you an accurate view as to how much standing water you're actually working with here. Well, that belly there runs from around... Oh, my foot counter's not ticking anymore for some weird reason. Not sure why the monitor froze up that way. But you do have a belly here from, I don't know exactly what the footage is now. I apologize for that. I don't know how to make that thing work. But you've got about a 15-foot stretch of line there with standing water in it. With the amount of debris that's in the line, though, we're not getting an accurate look at how much water there is, because that debris will displace the water and can make an otherwise more minor belly look major. And at 70 feet, at that distance, I'm still not terribly concerned about a belly. In total, to get back to the foundation wall from the 70-foot mark, I mean, you're probably closer to about 90 to 100 feet, if not more, before you actually get in through the foundation. Now, more than anything, I'd like to see the debris cleaned out of the line. After the rescope, you can assess how much water is actually there. That's not one that I would just jump right out of the gate and say we're doing a repair on. Bellies that are that distance from the home, especially in smooth plastic pipe like this, very rarely back up unless the homeowner's putting things like paper towels, grease, stuff like that down the line, which should not be going down the line to begin with. And you have a little bit of it's a very minor offset right here, and it's offset in the direction you want it to be. There's no lip in the flow line for stuff to run into. Other than this, I mean, this is about a 32nd of an inch lip. That's not concerning. The joint appears to be intact there. So we're back to the clean out. I'm going to see if I can zero the camera back out. Yeah, for some reason the monitor is frozen up here. I apologize. I can't tell you the exact footage, but I mean, I'm going to put on the report approximately from around 55 feet to 70 feet. It was a roughly 15-foot section of pipe. It may have been slightly longer than that. I'm going to see if this cleanout will let us go backwards. This looks like a directional cleanout, but we might be able to finagle things to go backwards here. All right, we're now heading back towards the home. Let me transition to cast iron. And this is where we start necking down to 3-inch pipe. At this point, we should be well within the house here. Yeah, there's a drain tie in there, so we're inside the house at this point. So the flow line of the cast iron there is becoming a little bit rough, somewhat pitted, but still appears to be intact. When it comes to these older cast iron lines, because they are naturally, they're rougher and bumpier than plastic pipe, you really want to make sure you're not putting things like paper towels, tampons, stuff like that down the line. They tend to snag up in pipe like this, and those items don't break down on their own like toilet paper and move on their way terribly easily. So that's, if you're putting flushable wipes or another one, do not use them on a line this old. I mean, you really don't want to use them on any line. They're terrible, but they will build up. That right there is either a paper towel or a wipe that's hung up in the line. So more than anything here, I would like to see this line cleaned out. The standing water, I've seen most of which, you've got some minor stuff in the first little bit of the line, maybe the first 30, 40 feet. But most of the standing water that's notable is at minimum 50, 60 feet out from the house, which is not terribly concerning in my opinion. Usually when I'm scoping bellies that are that far from the home that have caused a backup, I mean, almost 100% of the time, what I'm looking at is a whole bunch of stuff that shouldn't be going down the line. Paper towels, giant balls of toilet paper, stuff like that. So I would clean it. At this point, I'm not recommending any repairs on the sewer line. It needs to be cleaned out more so we can see it. Both the cast iron branch we started in and this branch. My camera did a reasonable job of scraping stuff loose, but you've still got grease buildup and buildup throughout the main line. Now, and I would run that backwards, forwards and backwards. I mean, to clear the wipeout that we saw back in the, as we went back towards the home there, and then rescope it. That's going to give you a better view of everything as to how significant everything is. But as it sits right now, mostly I'm concerned about the line just getting cleaned out. The belly that's out there, you know, at that point after cleaning, we can assess it better, but where it's at traditionally is not a spot that I would recommend repairs on. It's too far from the home, in my opinion, to pose a high risk for a blockage. That's, of course, unless you have habits of putting wild and crazy things down the sewer line. And then the cast iron, the first part we started with there, I would really like to see that clean so we can see the flow line, make sure there's no rotted areas or anything like that. There's just too much buildup there to see the flow line area. And that's where and cast iron, over time, it doesn't always do it, but in a lot of cases over time, cast iron will eventually rot and potentially rot through into the ground. And it varies. Sometimes it can take many, many decades for that to occur. But that's where you really want to see cast iron. That's where the wear and tear happens. As it sits right now, the line is functioning. It's draining slower than it should. due to the buildup and partially due to the belly. But again, the belly where it's at is not a terribly concerning location. If that belly were right up next to the house, you know, clean or not clean, I would be recommending a repair on it. But all the pipe we scoped here today appears to be intact. I did not see any obvious areas where the line looked broken, separated, or anything of the sort, so it's intact and functioning, but draining slower than it should. After the line is cleaned out, you should have improved flow, assuming we don't uncover something in the cast iron where there's damage.